And welcome back. So, Magic, I haven't done one in a little while. I didn't really keep up on the Kaldheim spoilers, honestly, because I thought they'd finished up. That's why I didn't continue on. And I'm like, oh no, there's a whole nother week to it. Oh well. And then there was the Pokemon videos. Then I had the week of what ifs going on. So I'm like, I'll hold off for a little bit. So we're back. Kaldheim gets released next week, and with Kaldheim, we basically got another sect of gods. And now that we have three different sects of gods in the Magic universe, I thought that question is actually now very apt. Which plane, Amonket, Theros, or Kaldheim, has the strongest gods? I think it's a very legit question. Because I mean, all the gods are actually are similar to some degree, at least definitely between Theros and Amonket, but are also extremely different. And I'm looking at you, Kaldheim, because you really changed up the format with gods here. And I'm certain we'll get more gods later down the line. If we get another Japanese-themed plane beyond Kamigawa, they have a pantheon of gods we can go to, definitely. If we get an Indian-based region, that are plane of some kind, they have a sect of gods as well. There are gods in many different folklores and religions and things along those lines. So it's very possible we can get many more pantheons of gods later down the line. But this is what we have right now. So the question is, now I will look at this in the sense of the cards themselves and how the cards translate into lore. Because the cards are basically trying to give you an idea of what these characters are like in the lore. But obviously it's for gameplay as well. So let's look at the gods and how they function real quick. And we'll actually start from top, bottom, and then go to the right. So the Amonket gods are physical entities that exist in the physical realm. They are creatures. And they're not a subset of creature like the Theros gods are. They are creatures. They're also all are indestructible as well. They are still gods. But they have conditions for basically attacking or blocking, i.e. basically they have worship conditions. You worship them and then they act upon that, the worshiping, the praying that you do for them. The Theros gods are, again, indestructible like the Amonket gods, but unlike the Amonket gods, they are an enchantment creature. They are both. And because of that, devotion, praying is what gives them physical form to manifest. When they don't have the physical form, enough praying, they are only the enchantment. They exist, but they can't interact with the real world. Their abilities still matter, but they can't, come down and wreak havoc on the world. The Kaldheim gods are not indestructible, but they are humanoids that have abilities that go along with them. They have items, creatures that are associated with them. Hence the module, double face card. You can play them either or, and it's one of the few gods that definitely benefits you playing multiple copies, because you can have multiple copies of both let's use Alderaan here for example. You can have both the bird, the raven, and him on the field. The cards are supposed to work in conjunction with each other if you have multiple copies of them. Ooh. So the question now becomes, which plane has the strongest gods? So let's look at each plane again, and see what the pros and cons of them are. Let's actually start with Theros, who had the first gods. The Theros gods were all indestructible, meaning apart from exiling, and I think mass board wipe is a way you get around indestructible. I can't be certain on that though. I don't believe that's okay, but maybe it is. But anyway, they're all indestructible, and they all have many different abilities. The Theros gods, in terms of just their lore, are extremely influential and powerful in their world, absolutely. But they're also very much dependent on the people in their world, which is very telling. Saying that if people stopped praying to them, they would lose pretty much all. They would lose the ability to form in the physical world. Their influence could still exist, hence what the enchantment implies, because their abilities are still there, but they would lose all ability to form in their physical world. Neither the Amonket nor the Kaldheim gods have that restriction. They exist in the physical world no matter what. We should also note that even though we have the 5 main gods here, there is also the Locust, Scorpion, and Scarab god, who were gods prior to, alongside the Amonket gods, who were gods prior to Bolas's insurrection of Amonket and, takeover. So you have to factor those guys in as well, because they are gods, let's be clear too, but they are different in terms of what they do. So with the Amonket gods, it is a bit of a weird combination because the 3 insect arachnid gods do not have the same restrictions that the other 5 gods of Amonket have. But they're also all dead. So, but unlike being indestructible, they can just return to the battlefield. They have to be exiled is the thing. They either have to be exiled or pacified or something. Otherwise, they just will not go away. they are like, it's a indefinite resurrection, basically. So they exist in their lore regardless, but they don't do anything really unless there's enough devotion or something to said gods in some way. I believe with Oketra, it's creatures attacking a certain amount. I know with Ronos, it's a creature power 4 greater on the field. I have 2 copies of him. Plus, I think I have his... I believe I have his zombie as well. I know I got Bantu's zombie. And I'm pretty sure I got Ronos' zombie. Let's see here. So, Bantu is about sacrificing cards, and that allows you to attack, basically. I believe Hazaret was damaged, like burn damage, something like, or dealing damage, and then they can attack. And then, or block. And then Kefnet was 7 or more cards in your hand. Kefnet was the one I was never a fan of, because like that is so unreasonable. I'd like to have a hand, please. But then, in lore, they need some... Now, in lore, they can act on their own if they need to. But they're also pretty inconsequential compared to... I will say this. The Theros gods overall are easier to use because you just need to have the devotion and they will constantly be able to attack and block. If you have multiple gods on the field, they will, activate each other's devotion off as well. I have a god deck. I have all the Theros gods. I have almost all the Amonket gods. Actually, no, I don't have almost all the Amonket gods. I'm actually short quite a few of them. I don't actually plan to make a god deck with the Kaldheim gods because they're so different that making a god deck with all of them actually doesn't really work to my benefit. So they're all just going to be finding homes in different decks. But that being said, a Boast deck, another Snow deck, adding to my Planeswalker deck. There's definitely decks maybe a new Elf deck. There's plenty of decks I'm going to be making out of the Kaldheim set. So the Theros gods, I think, actually have the edge over the Amonket gods in terms of their lore. Because their influence is always there, and then they can manifest, and they're pretty much like, they are legitimate, like, god-like beings. The problem with the gods of Kaldheim is, and it's the big thing that really, I think, puts them on lower scale here, or a lower end of the totem pole, is that they're stronger than a normal human, but that's about it. They die. These gods die, and Mark Rosor was very specific in pointing out that, in Norse mythology, the gods can die. So they are not as durable as the rest of these gods. So on that scale, they die. They just die. So if you're talking about from a lore perspective, I think the Theros gods are the strongest. If we're talking about from a cards perspective, we already went over the Theros gods and the Amonket gods, very much. And I would still give the edge to the Theros gods. But if we're are the Theros gods, are the Kaldheim gods stronger than the Theros or the Amonket gods? Well, the thing about that is that they had the benefit of being module double face cards, which means if we have to look at the gods, we have to look at them with, if you have both their item or creature or whatever and them on the field, how do they play? So, I mean, I'm going to look real quick because I know my battery's low at the moment. We'll look real quick at it. So we have like a Redan, the god of the worthy. This one is basically a snowland hoser. And non-creature spells your opponents cast that would convert a mana cost 4 or greater cost 2 more to cast. So she basically is a snowland hoser, and she is a she makes it so your opponent's spells are more expensive to cast, which is actually pretty good. And she's a 2/3 flying vigilance god. So I mean, that's actually a really good card. Then her shield basically prevents damage from a source. And whenever another permanent an opponent controls becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you can counter that unless they play an extra 1. So she is very much a hoser. A hoosier. She's a hose card, basically. Halavar, god of battle. That's the first god we ever saw, where creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike, and at the beginning of each combat you can move around enchantment or equipments. Then the Sword of the Realms, which is the sword that Tybalt actually stole, gets +2/+0 and has vigilance, and when this card dies, or when the creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. That means you use it in conjunction with this guy. This guy now has vigilance, 6/4 double strike, and you can move this sword around wherever you want to. I mean, yeah, the indestructible means like if these gods went toe to toe, those gods would Halavar would still lose. But Redain actually might not, because she would lose if they went head to head, but they would have to get on the field first, and all the gods save for like Thassa and the black white one who is basically the ferryman god. Oh, I can't remember his name, but him and Farika. Those 3 gods are 3 mana gods. So those ones would have like an immunity from her, but all the other ones would cost a hell of a lot more just to get out. Then you have Alderaan, god of the cosmos, who's your Odin, gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand, and each foretold card you own. And at the beginning of your end step, choose a card type, then reveal 2 cards in your library. Put all cards of the chosen type in your hand, and rest in any order. So basically, you're feeling how big this guy is. Add on Haka, whispering form, his raven. When it deals combat damage to a player, return this card to its owner's hand and do 2 damage in Scry 2. So in essence, it's activated, so it works off turn. So this guy can get huge fast. Cosmina, god of the voyage. I love Cosmina, god of the voyage. I actually really do. This is one of my favorite ones. This is the one where you can exile it with at the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile Coma. Battery's really low. Coma. And if you do, you know what? We're actually going to do a check and shot. If you do, whenever a land enters the battlefield, you put a voyage counter on her, and then eventually you can bring her out, and you'll basically be able to draw cards. And we're walking, getting my charger. I thought I had more battery power than I did at the moment. I guess I had spent too much time on something else. So, if you'll excuse me, and we're here again. And so, 1 second. Now, if I were a better YouTuber, I would edit this all out, but I'm not. And you know what? I make no apology. I make a little apologies for that. Wait, there we go. Yeah. So she comes out with X +1 counters, and you draw X cards for X's number of voyage counters on her. And then the ship, the Omen Keel, you control, deals combat damage to a player. That player exiles that many cards from the top of their library. You may play land cards from among those cards for as long as they remain exiled. So again, these two work 100% in conjunction with each other. These two actually working together are disgusting. And then I believe that is all the blue gods. So then you have the black gods, who I believe there were 3. They actually went pretty heavy on black gods here. You have Egon, the god of death, 6/6 death touch for 1 black, 2 of any color. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. If you can't, sacrifice this guy and draw a card, which means even if you don't have 2 cards the first turn you play it, you can still play it as a blocker for the turn, for at least one turn, and then draw a card the following turn. And at the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. You can pay 2 and 1 black, exile a creature card from your graveyard to draw a card for his throne, which basically what it does is it enables you to keep him on the field a bit longer. And then you have, there's 2 other black gods. Tergrid, God of Fright, 2 black, 3 of any color for a 4/5 God Menace. When an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent, you may put that card Yeah, that's weird. You may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And then there's the Lantern that they carry. Target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card, and you can untap this Lantern. So yeah, and then you have Valki, God of Lies. Now Valki is actually Tybalt, so that one's a wash because we don't know what the actual Valki can actually do. Then you have the red gods, which I believe there are 2 of them. There is Bergi, God of Storytelling. Basically lets you cast, you can cast it whenever you get a spell out of red mana to your turn, you don't lose mana. Creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. And then her Horn, discard a card, exile top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards. And then obviously there's the Thor stand-in, who is the big guy who's got Mjolnir and all that. I think I'm pretty much done. I mean, we have the green gods real quick. The green gods really aren't that strong, all things considered. One basically gives you the Rainbow Bridge card. And then the other, if I'm not mistaken, Iska's Chariot. Oh no, that's something different. Then there is Kolvori, and then there is Jorn, God of Winter, who is mostly Snowland related. Ultimately, if we're talking about pure combat to combat, the Kaldheim gods. If you had someone having a Kaldheim God deck, if you had someone having an Amonket God deck, and if you had someone with a Theros God deck, and those decks clashed, in terms of combat, the indestructible creatures are going to win. But the problem with those is there are restrictions to how they can attack, when they can attack, why they can attack. There are no restrictions when it comes to the Kaldheim gods. That's what really separates them. And they actually have many, many, many different options in terms of how you can play them. If in theory you ever did make a Kaldheim God deck, you could play different gods, modular sides with their other god sides. You could in theory equip Egon, the God of Death, with the sword of the realms, for instance. Now making him a 8/6 vigilance death touch. You could, in theory, there aren't really. You could equip Thor's Tapestry's hammer onto Odin, and he's now wielding Mjolnir. So, yeah, ultimately, do I think the Kaldheim gods, because of their versatility and the ability to attack pretty much whenever they want, are stronger than the Theros gods? That's a loaded question. I will say tentatively no. Indestructible is still one of the best abilities you can have, because you are immune to destruction effects. That's just the way it is. These guys are not immune to a destruction effect. Like, these guys could just be murdered. There you go. You can't do that with the Theros or Amonket gods. So no, I will not say. And all the Theros gods have other abilities that are just active as enchantments as it is. So they play as enchantments, not just as creatures. But that said, I actually do think they're better than the Amonket gods, despite the fact the Amonket gods have indestructible. I think they are better than at least the original 5 Amonket gods. There are, against the 3 Bolas gods, we'll call them. No, the Bolas gods are stronger. There's just, well, they're stronger. The abilities that those gods, like the Scarab gods, from what I know, is still like a $30, $40 card from what I know. The Locust and the Scorpion god are much cheaper, but no, the Locust god was ridiculous in terms of how strong it was, costly and strong it was. So I do think they're stronger than the Amonket gods due to the overall fact that there are more of them. I think that plays a big factor in it. There's a lot of versatility between them, and the fact that they themselves are just they can attack whenever. The Amonket gods actually have more restrictive requirements than the Theros gods do for how they attack, due to the fact that they all have a different unique condition for attacking or blocking, whereas the Theros gods just need devotion. So if I were to rank the gods, I'd say the Theros gods are still the best set of gods. The Kaldheim gods, though, I think do come in at number 2. I think they have now usurped the Amonket gods for that. And the Amonket gods currently stand as the weakest set of gods that we have in Magic. With the exception of the Bolas gods. I think the Bolas gods are probably tied with the Kaldheim gods, but the Kaldheim gods have far more just rank, number, and versatility. But ultimately, yes, I that's my ordering. Theros, Kaldheim, Bolas gods, tied with Kaldheim, and then the Amonket gods at the bottom. But what do you think? Do you think the Kaldheim gods are better? You think the Theros gods are best? Or do you think I'm wrong and the Amonket gods are actually the best sect of gods there is? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. And ideas for who would win, Star Wars, Superior Magic, What If, anything you do on the channel, put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to that at some point. So thanks for watching. I'll see you folks next time. Later.